So hi, this is Lou, welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to paint a watercolour mandala like this one or like this one. And these are made with just two colours of watercolour, and then I've added in some detail at the end with a white Posca pen. So let's show you how I painted this one. So we're going to need a few things today. So we've got some watercolour paper. I'm using hot press paper today, which has got like a slightly smoother surface. I've got my watercolour paints. I've got 2 jars of water. I like to use one to clean my brush and then another one to keep fairly clean to mix in with the colours. And then I've got a little bit of paper towel just for cleaning my brush on. So I've got 2 brushes today. They're both fairly small. I've got a 0 and a 2. This one I'm going to use most of the time, and then this one I'll get out when I need to do some really fine detail. And then I need some tools for doing the initial drawing. So I've got a ruler and a pencil. I like a mechanical pencil, but that's just personal preference. I've got a rubber, and this is like a kneadable putty rubber. And then I've got a pair of compasses. These ones are quite fancy because I like drawing lots of circles, but the kind that you get in like a maths kit work really well. So normally I'd tape down my paper to the table, but I'm not going to do that today because I want to be able to turn it, because I want to be able to paint lots of detail, and to do that it's going to be much more useful if I can turn the paper. Now you could tape it to a board that's just a little bit bigger than the paper, but I'm just going to wing it. So I've moved the painting things out of the way while I draw the structure for my mandala. I'm going to start by finding the centre of the page. Now my ruler's not quite long enough to go to each corner, but I can work it out roughly. Just put a mark there. And this one there. And then that's roughly the centre of the page. Now I'm going to decide how big I want my mandala to be on the page, and I think 16 centimetres will give me a little bit of space on either side, so that's probably a good one. So if I set the radius of this to 8 centimetres, there we go. And I'm going to draw a circle. Try and make that a bit stronger so you can see it better. There we go. Normally I do a circle really lightly, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing here, so I'm putting it in a little bit heavier than I normally would. Now I want to make a line right through the centre of the circle. Now I want to create another line this way, and I want to make sure that it's 90 degrees from this line here. So in order to do that, if I put my point on here where this line joins the circle, and then if I make my compasses just a little wider, I can make a mark there and do the same on this side here. And then you get this point here. You can do the same at the top as well. So we've created these 2 arcs, and I can join them up. And now we've got a little cross through the centre of the circle. Now I want to create a line here and a line here, divide the circle into 8. And so I can do that in the same way. So you want it to be just over halfway. It doesn't have to be any particular distance, just as long as you can make these marks cross like that. And then we join where this crosses to where this crosses and make sure it goes right through the centre. Now we've got our guidelines in that divide the circle into 8. Now all I want to do is to put in some concentric circles that give me some guidelines towards the centre of the circle. So we started with 8, so let's now do 6. And 4. And 2. Now I have a page that looks quite busy with pencil lines, and I don't want these to be as solid and as permanent as they are now. So I'm going to go in with my rubber, and the first thing is that these arc lines I can get rid of completely. And then the guidelines I want to go over lightly, because I want to take down the intensity of them. When I paint over the top of these, you're still going to see them. So if I can make these as faint as possible while still being able to see them, that's the best thing. So now it's time to choose my colours, and I like to pick 2 colours, and you can pick any 2 colours. This works with any 2 colours you fancy. If you pick 2 colours that are quite close together, you'll end up with a finished result that's quite like monotonal. So you could pick 2 different blues, or you could pick a blue and a green, and that would look really quite nice. If you pick 2 colours that are quite far apart, so like a warm colour and a cool colour, you'll end up with a greater range of shades. So I've picked this blue, which is incredibly vibrant. This is a Windsor and Newton palette, and they call this colour Windsor Blue. And it's really pigmented. So I'm just picking up some of the colour on a damp brush, moving it into the palette, and then adding a little bit of water into it until I get it to the right kind of consistency. And then I want a colour that is going to be quite different to that. So I thought yellow might look quite nice. And I've got lots of these kind of orangey yellows over here, but because this blue is so vibrant, I thought more of an earth tone would kind of calm it down a little bit. So I've gone for a yellow ochre, which is this one here, which is like a lovely mustardy yellow colour. And then what I like to do is create some mixes of the 2 colours. So this one here is mostly blue with a bit of yellow in it. And it's a lovely kind of teal green. And then this one at the bottom is mostly yellow, mostly the yellow ochre, but with a tiny bit of blue in it. And that blue is really powerful, so I think it's going to need a lot more yellow. And it becomes a lovely kind of olivey green. So these 4 colours are essentially what I'm going to use to fill in different areas. And I might change the tones of some of these greens slightly as we go on to add a little bit more interest into the design. Now, I'm going to use a pencil again, and I'm just going to use the pencil to give me some guidelines and some little marks that might help me to decide where to paint. So I'm going to start at the centre and work out, and as I work out I will make the same marks in each of the 8 segments. So I tend to work with really simple shapes, so kind of teardrop shapes, petal shapes, circles, half circles, triangles, things like that. So I'm going to start by just making a mark around here, roughly the same distance away from the line on each side. But if it's not exact, don't worry about it. And then I'm going to make a mark on the circle at about halfway between the 2 lines. So I'm just doing this by eye. And then what I've got here is a little kite shape there. and I'm going to fill in each of those kind of kite-shaped areas with watercolour paint. I'm going to leave a white gap around each section. So you can draw these in with pencil if you like this. And then use the pencil as a guideline and only paint up to the pencil line. And then when I paint the next bit, I'm going to leave a little bit of gap. That's so that I can paint the two areas next to each other while the colours are still wet and the colours won't run into one another. So I've got a lot of paint on my brush, and it's now, I can see it's got like a nice fine point on it. So I can use that point right in the centre of the little kite shape and just place that down. And then run that colour up one of the edges. And again, I'll start in the centre, run that colour up the edge, and then join those two edges together. And then I can just use the point of my brush to fill in that space. And then if I want to do any refinement to the shape, I can do that. Now I'm just going to make the same shape in each of these little segments. At some point it starts to feel quite awkward, so at that point you can turn your paper so you can get your hand at a more comfortable angle for painting. So I'm always essentially using the very tip of the brush to draw with. And then when it comes to filling in areas, I can press the brush down and more paint will come out. But that's less easy to control, so I only do that once I've done the outline. So now I've got my first circle of shapes. I need to decide what shape I'm going to do for the next lot. So you can either kind of build on top of the shape that you've put in, or you can do something in between. I tend to alternate between doing something on top and something in between, but it's nice to change it up every now and again. So I'm going to put in some yellow, and I'm just going to do some little arcs. So I'm going to follow the first two lines, following the shapes that are already in there, and then the third is just a little arc. And don't worry about them all being the same size. I think having some variety in them makes them look interesting. It makes it look hand painted, handmade. And it's part of what gives it its charm. So I'm switching to a smaller brush because I want to do some more detailed work. And so I'm going to put in a little skinny line around there. And then I'm going to do some half circles. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, little lacy effect, and then go and fill those all in. So I'm going to do that on each one. So I want to do some slightly bigger shapes now. It's really good to get a mix of slightly bigger and slightly smaller shapes. It adds balance to your drawing. So I'm going to add in little marks on this circle. Just going by eye where I think halfway point is. And then with my slightly bigger brush, not saying this is a big brush by any stretch of the imagination, to create some shapes. Coming up here. Fill that in. Yeah, make the same shape 7 more times. Well, I'm just going to keep going, adding new shapes as and when they occur to me, and keep going until I reach the edge of the circle I've drawn. So this is all dry now, and I think it's looking pretty good. Now I can go in with a rubber and get rid of any of the pencil lines that are left over. And then I'd be quite happy to call this finished, but I am going to go in and add some more detail because I love detail. I've got a pen, this is a white pen, a black pen or something else would work just as well. Gold will look really nice. So yeah, I'm going to go in with the white pen and just add in a few little fine details, just to give it a bit of something extra. So this is done now and I'm really happy with how it's come out. I hope you give this a go. If you do, I'd love to see your efforts. This is a really good exercise for learning brush control, so give yourself some time and be patient with yourself. It does take a little bit of fiddling to get the technique of holding the brush right and moving the paper and holding it all at the right angle. So be gentle with yourselves. So if you do have a go, I'd love to see it. And if you post it on Instagram, you can tag me at Lou Rachel Davis, and I love to see what you make. And I'm on Facebook as well at Lou Davis, Artist and Maker. So I'm going to be putting a printable version of this on Patreon, and there's quite a few of my artworks up there that you can download and use them as greetings cards, or you can use them to decorate a journal, or you could print it out and put it on your wall. It's entirely up to you, as long as it's not for commercial purposes and you're not reselling my work. I've got quite a few good and loyal supporters on Patreon, and I'm very grateful for the support that they offer me. If you'd like to join them, you'd be very welcome. So thanks very much for watching today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out. And if you'd like to see more things like this, then please do subscribe. I post new art, drawing and making and sewing videos every week, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you, bye!